This is definitely not just another modulation plugin. With this one, Waves condensed the history of modulation effects and modeled some of the best, most iconic and rarest pedals and modulation rack effects and put it in one plugin and added a bunch of new great modern features. I mean, even Cenobite likes it. It's called Kaleidoscope. Let's take a look at it. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixbusTv. Hope you're having a great day. Before we start, please check the info box down below for my mixing courses on ProMix Academy and all the links to Waves Kaleidoscope. And if the videos are helping you, but most important, you want access to the all new members only mix and mastering videos and courses here on the channel, click the join button down here. See all the perks of becoming a MixbusTv member, which includes mix consultations with me via Skype or email. Let's get to the video. There's a lot to say about this plugin because, like I said, they really packed the most iconic and most used throughout decades of music, a modulation effects unit. And I will tell you and show you some of the specific units that were used to create Kaleidoscope in a minute. But I would say the first thing is, let's take a look at the GUI, the controls, and hear how it sounds. GUI is cool, but most important, it's simple, streamlined, and everything is in front of you. You have two tabs, effect 1 on the left, effect 2 on the right. And for each one, you can individually select phaser, flanger, chorus, and tremolo, okay, for effect 1 and effect 2. And of course, you can combine them in many different ways. By default, you will find them in serial, okay? But you can click here and put these two effects in parallel. We will see it will open up other control. For example, here at the mixer at the bottom, rotate 1 and 2. You see is only active if it's in parallel mode. We'll get there in a minute. For every effect, you have a different sets of knob when you click on the effect tab at the top. For flanger, you have speed, resonance, width, mix, and depth. And also you have a minimum and maximum excursion for the phaser. So let me solo this one and play this to you. So this is a guitar without it first, and then I'll put it in. You can see by turning these knob min and max, you can band pass, basically limit the oscillation of this specific effect. Depth of speed is pretty self-explanatory for anyone familiar with any modulation effects. But here's a couple of interesting things that makes Kaleidoscope unique. So first of all, the modulator, you have different, of course, waveforms to modulate, to control the modulation. Sine, triangle, absolute sine, random, input, and sidechain. So you can trigger it with the input or with an external sidechain signal. One very cool thing also is the character. This changes basically the tone of the effect itself. I'm gonna put it at 100% just so you can hear it. From 3 to 4 is probably the most noticeable, almost radio-y effect on the 3, and full band with a big bottom on 4. First of all, the quality of the effects on Kaleidoscope is not really a matter of quality. No, it's mostly about having the familiar sound of the vintage unit they modeled, all the nonlinearities and all the quirks they had. And we will see the models in a minute. But first, another advanced feature of this plugin that is worth mentioning, which is the Retrigger Module here. So you can have it in off, simple, retrigger, and one shot. You have two options here, rhythmic and energy. By adjusting the threshold, you will trigger the effect with your input, but you can tailor the behavior of it. And if you leave it at energy, it will react to the energy, to the RMS level. So it's a smooth movement, okay? And you can decide attack and release, you can see. But if you leave it a rhythm, you see it start having a rhythmic pattern, and I will try on another guitar. So it just reacts to the transient, to the rhythmic part of the material, and then stops. And the length of the modulation, you adjust it with the length knob, then of course, so for the attack. But this is pretty cool when you combine this with other effects. So let me try this one really quick. So you see now our chorus reacts to the transient, and the phaser works like a classic effects. In this case is modulated by the sine wave. For each model you have a sync button, so not only you can sync the speed here, but you can also sync the length down there in the trigger module. That's pretty cool. You have a through function. This will make it work like a normal guitar pedal. On the left side you will have the dry sound, and on the right side you will have the fully wet sound. You can see the mix knob is grayed out when you press this. Of course, this is only available in stereo or dual mono mode. Right, in this case, you see I have it in parallel instead of in serial, and it's super cool. If you notice, when you have the retrigger active, this light here, the kaleidoscope light, lights up to tell you that the signal is being triggered, that effect is being triggered by your signal, so you have a visual reference. All right, and also you have here a drive knob in the mixer tab. This drive can be off, pre-effect and post-effect. You also have a dry level knob, general. And also, like I said, when you have the effects in parallel, you do have a rotate. This obviously will rotate the effects individually. So you can really experiment in so many different ways with this. These effects are really smooth and mellow, and they have, especially the flanger and the chorus, they have that liquid vibe and feel into it. Let me show you what specific hardware analog modules were used to create this one. Let's start with three effects that were basically how modulation was introduced in modern music. And those were the Armand 601 Tremolo Control from 1941, the Fender Tremolux 1955, and the Fender Vibrolux 1973. Then after the tremolo, the phasing and double track tricks the producer did with the tape machines in expensive studios called for standalone studio effect processor like the Eventide Instant Phaser Model PS101, the MXR Phase 90 1974, and the MXR Phase 100 1977. Then flanger and chorus effects were introduced to create double tracking, stereo widening, swooshy and dreamy effects. The Eventide Instant Flanger 1976 and the Boss CE1 Chorus Ensemble from 1976 were again among the machines used to create Kaleidoscope. It can be very cool not just for classic straight modulation effects, but also to lo-fi samples, for example like this one. You can swap the order here. You hear the character, how it changes drastically the tone of the effect. And I'm using this on insert, but like I said, you can use it, of course, in a send return. Not just for guitars, you can use these effects on pretty much anything. Synth, vocals, return of effects like stereo and delays. I have a couple of tricks for that. Or even bass, the stereoizer just had a little bit of color. Automating this kind of effects is always fun. It always brings more life into any mix. So definitely experiment with automation with those. Even just creating a simple automation like this, just a master bypass. All right, just an example. It's great to add that drip or sauce or whatever the name of the week is on loops and samples for, especially for hip hop and trap. They're really organic sounding. Even if I twist the knob all the way, it doesn't sound like a sticker on top of the sound. It sounds pretty much part of it. Piano parts like this. How much bigger it makes it and more interesting. You can use it on rhythmic loops to create these modulated stutters. You see now I'm using the flanger with a lot of feedback to create this effects, but I'm triggering the modulation with the rhythmic mode here in the trigger section. So it's triggered by my drum is a rhythmic pattern that triggered the modulation. You can automate, you can copy the tracks and start chopping these kind of effects. All of that with so many options for tone with the character mode. And you know you're using modulations effect that have been used in legendary records, you know, since the very beginning of, we can say, recorded music. And if you open a mono to stereo instance on an acoustic guitar, for example, we have a preset for it. Vocals.
We won't dwell on the past and the shadow it casts, so unembraceable and it lasts. Look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I. The peel off the sky, all is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I.
Let's add the phaser a little bit.
We won't dwell on the past and the shadow it casts, so unembraceable and it lasts. Look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky.
Look at this trigger down here. It's so cool that you can trigger the effect with your input and you have the rhythmic and the energy mode because it changes completely the vibe.
We won't dwell on the past and the shadow it casts, so unembraceable and it lasts. Look it dead in the eyes, the peel off the sky. All is erasable and there's nothing left here for you and I. Why do we...
Again, one thing to notice when I turn the mix knobs down is how part of the sound itself these effects sound as opposed to on top or noticeably added to it. You can use it on returns of effects like a delay in this case. So plain delay.
Why do we even try? There's nothing left here. We lost our whole world in one night.
It's pretty cool, huh?
We had an advantage,
With
both of us reckless. It took it for granted.
I absolutely love these kind of effects on effects. All my delays in all my mixes, I spent so much time trying to find different ways to pan them, different ways to move them, different ways to place them in a 3D space and somewhere in the mix. These kind of effects thrown on top of reverbs and delays with this quality and this kind of flexibility, even just changing the tone will change the position.
Why do we even try? There's nothing left here. We lost our whole world in one night.
As opposed to delay here.
We had an advantage, both of us reckless. It took it for granted.
Sounds great. I totally love it. Kudos to Waves for making Kaleidoscope. I'm definitely, this is a keeper for me. I hope this video was useful. I hope you liked it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like. You will find all the links to Waves Kaleidoscope in the info box down below. Follow MixbusTv on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe if you haven't already and click the notification bell. It helps the channel a lot. Stay safe from me and Cenobite here. See you next time.